All right, well, today we got another story about a train crash. It just so happened to be in Italy this time. I've talked a lot about these Amtrak derailments. There's been tons of train coding in the past year or past couple years, we had the Philadelphia train wreck that was connected to Pope Francis's visit to the United States and also to the movie Trainwreck and the NBA Finals with LeBron James and whatnot. Even the Trainwreck shooting, talked about all the theater shootings in regards to Abraham Lincoln being assassinated in a theater. Also, Barack Obama, when he became president, he opened up Ford's Theater. That was one of the first things that he did. We also got the story of Nicholas Winton. He died at the age of 106 last year. He was famous for saving the Jewish children on a train. The Philadelphia train wreck was going 106 miles an hour. The engine number was 601. We had the French train attack. You had Jared from Subway. Even the day after the Paris attacks, there was a train wreck in Paris. It was on Prince Charles's birthday. And I also mentioned a whole lot in regards to the movie Back to the Future. That's how I even somewhat predicted the World Series last year to be the Kansas City Royals because they hadn't won it since 1985. The World Series last year even began on October 27th, which was the same day that the Royals won the World Series in 1985, the same day that Back to the Future comes to an end. But in Back to the Future, they use the train to push the DeLorean back to 1985. Then the DeLorean gets destroyed by the train in a train wreck. And then Doc Brown comes back in a train time machine. So there's just lots of train symbolism going on with that movie. And I had talked about after the Royals won the World Series, that's how I knew there was something significant about the Chicago Bears at least. And I knew that the Chicago Bears weren't going to win the Super Bowl, but I knew it was something connected to the Chicago Bears because of the movie Back to the Future. Turns out, the Super Bowl's completely connected to the 85 Bears. The college football championship, Clemson versus Alabama, the total score was even 85. The quarterback wore a wristband with the number 85 on it. There was lots of 85 coding going into that. Then Villanova won the basketball tournament for the first time since 1985. So all the sports were definitely scripted around 1985, which also connects back to the Future. That's like the main year that Marty lives in and whatnot. That's where it begins and ends. It even begins on Hillary Clinton's birthday. It was even her 38th birthday, which is interesting. I've been talking a lot about 38. Louisiana equals 38. Minnesota equals 38. Omaha equals 38. Prince equals 38. There's just been tons of coding to this royal theme. We just had the two fake black shootings, that were coded to 38. Death equals 38. So just interesting, her 38th birthday. Anyway, in this story, originally they reported it 23 killed in Italy train collision. It's moved up to 27. Doesn't even matter to what I'm talking about because 23 and 27 both have they both equal 55 at Gematria. But anyway, it says that this was in southeastern Italy. In Gematria, southeastern Italy just so happens to equal 232. The 232 just stuck out to me because on Pi Day, we also got an Amtrak derailment that was in Kansas. Kansas in Gematria, Jewish Gematria, equals 232. That one even just so happened to have 131 people on it. Prince Charles equals 131. The word Satan also equals 232 in Jewish Gematria. And they even updated this article here at 2:32 p.m. Just interesting in regards to it being in Italy. Pope Francis, like I said, a lot of it stems back to the Philadelphia train wreck that was connected to Pope Francis's visit to the United States. So just interesting, it's in Italy now. The Vatican's in Italy, Pope Francis. I've even showed previously 600, 6 score and 6 equals 313 in Gematria. Pope Francis became the Pope on 3/13 of 2013. Some other interesting 232s though, I went back through my notes. Obama was 232 days old when Marilyn Monroe and JFK supposedly had an affair, which is just interesting in regards to the Monroe stuff. James Monroe was the 5th president. He died on July 4th, 1831. It was, the 55th anniversary of the United States. I even talked about how James Monroe was the 5th president, but 3 of the first 5 presidents even died on July 4th. I mean, the odds, What are the odds that 3 of the first 5 presidents die on the nation's independence, Seems pretty ridiculous, especially this guy dies in 1831. The other 2 died in 1826. This guy dies exactly 1,826 days later. I mean, no way. Anyway, in regards to the 55, I'll get to that in a second. Also, this I'll get to in a second, but the main Major League Baseball strike that I remember as a kid, it was also, I believe it was the longest baseball strike. There was no postseason or anything this year. 94, 95. It's actually when I quit watching baseball. But it lasted 232 days. Back to the Future 3 in Gematria also equals 232. What's interesting about that is that Marty McFly leaves 1885, which that I've been talking about, Back to the Future 3. He leaves it on 9/7, which is also written as 7/9. 79 in Gematria equals 152. I left a link on my blog here to a post about the death of Merle Haggard. I also made a video on it that has even more information than this. But Merle Haggard's death was all about 79 and 152. I even talked about how Easter Sunday equals 152. Pope Francis just turned 79 years old. Pope Francis's visit to the United States and also the Philadelphia Trainwreck that happened at 9:23 p.m. were all connected to Pope Francis's visit to the United States on his 923rd day as Pope. Went to the White House at 9:23 on 9:23. Merle Haggard, the only albums that he has out that have the word train in them just so happen to be his 9th album and his 23rd album. And there's a whole bunch more to it. Check out, I'll leave a link to my Merle Haggard video in the links or the description. But anyway, in regards to that, 152, if you write out 152, it also equals 232. Paris terrorist attacks equals 232. And like I said, the next day on Prince Charles's 67th birthday, we got a train wreck in France. Even in regards to sports, if you write out Cleveland Cavaliers win championship 2016, it equals 232. So just interesting, this number connected to the train wrecks, and then Cleveland wins this year. Anyway, we get this story about the train wreck today on a date numerology of 55. I talked about Satan equals 232 in Jewish Gematria. In Pythagorean Gematria, or simple Gematria, Satan equals 55. If you write out the word 23, like the amount they originally said where it had died, it also equals 55 and 163. But now they've updated it to 27, that also equals 55. In regards to Back to the Future, Time Machine equals 55, and also 100 the big way. Back to the Future equals 59 in Gematria. Pope Francis equals 59 the small way in Gematria. Remember, the Cubs were supposed to sweep the Miami Marlins, or Miami. Right now the Miami team is the Miami Marlins. That equals 59. McFly equals 59. Flux capacitor equals 59. This number also a number, around black people. And I just mentioned that in regards to recent news, with the black shootings. Negro 59, slave equals 59, blues equals 59, Motown Records came out in 59. Jigaboo equals 59. Cotton picker equals 59. Tons of other stuff. I'm going to move on. I've shown this before, but another 59, Kansas City Royals, who won the World Series last year, that began on Back to the Future Day. They won in 85. Anyway, in Back to the Future, Doc Brown and Marty, they both leave 1955, and that's how they get to 1885, which was 131 years ago, to 2016. I know Back to the Future Day is over, but even last year the Cubs lost on Back to the Future Day. How much more obvious can it get, It's all planned, but in regards to 1885, so it's 131 years ago, they used train 131 to push the DeLorean. Prince Charles equals 131. Even when Doc Brown introduces his kids, they're Jules and Vern, in reference to Jules Verne, right? Jules Verne equals 131, also equals 59. Anyway, if you write out 55, it equals 54 and 108, and if you write out 59, it also equals 54 and 108. In regards to 23 up here, 163, if you write that out, it also equals 108. In regards to the 100 for Time Machine, 100 also equals 54 and 108. The Great Chicago Fire, in regards to the Cubs and whatnot, and also, Obama from Chicago, him and Abraham Lincoln, the only two presidents politically out of Illinois. But anyway, the Great Chicago Fire started on 10/8/1871, which this year will just so happens to be 145 years ago. Chicago, Illinois even equals 145. Obama will be turning 55 years old on 8/4 this year. October 8th, the anniversary of this, just so happens to leave 84 days left until the end of the year. We've been seeing tons of 84 stuff, throughout the past few years. In regards to the Chicago stuff and the Back to the Future and the Cubs and whatnot, I also talked about how it's connected. Actually, also in regards to the Chicago stuff, I talked, in Back to the Future and the Chicago Cubs. I also talked about how it's connected to the movie I Pet Goat. There's, because of the curse of the Billy Goat that's cursed on the Chicago Cubs since 1945. Literally, and in the movie I Pet Goat, they show the pink lotus flower, then Obama sweating, then they show a building collapsing, and I even talked about the Willis Tower here. Interesting, it's 108 stories tall. Also, Willis in gematria, Willis equals 84. And I'll just go back to this really quick. So, I talked about how Hillary Clinton was born. She was 38 years old on the day that Back to the Future begins. She's most likely going to be the 45th president if Obama doesn't get assassinated and then Biden becomes the president or something weird like that. But in regards to that, the 45, so Wrigley equals 45, Miami equals 45, Cubs equals 45. On Back to the Future, they even say Sports Flash, right? Sports Flash equals 45. The Curse of the Billy Goat was in 1945, and it was also when they were playing the Detroit Tigers. Detroit equals 91, just like Chicago Cubs. The last time the Cubs won the World Series will be 108 years ago this year. They beat the Detroit Tigers. Billy Cianis, the guy who cursed the Cubs, he also died 45 years ago. The 45th president. I even talked about how it's all connected to Valentine's Day, the 45th day of the year. Love equals 54. If you write out 54, it equals 45. Love, or 54 equals 54, but the backwards of love is evil, so it'd be 45 or whatever. Whole bunch of other stuff. This is even on the chalkboard in I Pet Goat. It says evil, space T, space N, or space, whatever. It's supposed to say evolution. Also, if you write out 45, 45 equals 54 and 126, just like the word 54. Even the 45th prime is 197, a number that's connected to Prince or whatever. Prince in Jewish gematria equals 1. Prince equals 197 in Jewish gematria. If you write out Charles, it equals 207. But if you write out 207, it equals 197. But anyway, let's move on here. So if you go from today's date to October 8th, right, the 10-8, it's a span of 88 days. I mean, just think about 88 in regards to Back to the Future. It's the speed for time travel. Right now, both of the Marlins and the Cubs have both played 88 games this season. Chicago Cubs in gematria equals 55. So I talked about all of them are connected to Pope Francis. Tons of stuff with Pope Francis and these train wrecks, so that's why it's interesting in regards to this one being in Italy. But if you go from, well, I didn't put the date on there, but if you go from the Philadelphia train wreck on May 12th of 2015 to today, it's a span of exactly 61 weeks. Today is also exactly 61 days after the 1-year anniversary of that train wreck. If you write out 61, it equals 41 and 131. Once again, connecting to Prince Charles. And Back to the Future, too. Back to the Future, on the newspaper on October 22nd of 2015, the newspaper says that there's a woman president, and it also says Queen Diana, right? And I'm not quite sure of what exactly the significance is, but I have noticed Princess Diana popping up a lot more lately. And I wonder if it's something to do with him or her and Prince Charles getting a divorce. I also talked about Queen Elizabeth II's sister, Princess Margaret, who was the first royal person to get a divorce since King Henry VIII. If you go back and read old news articles, they even talk about how Princess Margaret is like a train wreck. Just like last year when they were talking about Donald Trump all the time in the media, programming people to say that he was a train wreck and whatnot. There's a whole bunch of other stuff with Princess Margaret. She died exactly 49 days before Queen Elizabeth's mother, or their mother, died. And then they were both buried on 4/9. Whole bunch of other stuff with it, but in regards to Princess Diana, she was born in 1961 and died 61 days after her 36th birthday. And it was also on a date that leaves 122 days in the year. Trainwreck equals 122. Pope Francis equals 122. Also interesting that, President Obama equals 61. He was born in 61 as well. The Civil War began in 1861. But in regards to Diana and Obama, Princess Diana was born on 7/1 of 1961, which was 34 days before Barack Obama. If you read out the word 34, it also equals 61. Going back to what I was originally talking about in the beginning with the train wrecks, the one in Kansas. Kansas is really important to the Civil War. It was the 34th state and the last state to join the Union. It joined the Union 34 days before 3/4 when Abraham Lincoln became the president. Much more to that, but just wanted to point it out really quick. Also, the Queen's mother was born on Obama's birthday, or Obama was born on her birthday. She was exactly 61 years older than Obama. If you read out Diana Spencer, it equals 55 like I talked about before. Prince Charles turned 61 years old the same year that Obama became the president. Bernie Sanders just today endorsed Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders equals 61. Michael J. Fox was also born in 1961. He just turned 55 years old 33 days ago. Anyway, in regards to sports, we just got an article about this guy, however you say his name, Giancarlo Stanton. He just hit 61 home runs in the home run derby, beating the current record, or the last record of 41. Huge article. But what I noticed, he plays for the Miami Marlins. Miami Marlins also equals 131, like Prince Charles. And of course, the Back to the Future stuff, Train 131, 131 years ago. His full name, Giancarlo Cruz Michael Stanton, equals 122, just like Pope Francis, just like Trainwreck, just like Kansas City, just like Golden State, who won the NBA Finals last year. Today also just so happens to be 1 month, 22 days before the day that Marty McFly arrives in 1885. And Back to the Future even comes to an end on a date with 122 numerology. 9/2 also very special. It's the day that World War II came to an end in 1945. Remember I talked about the curse of the Billy Goat and all the 45s around the Cubs. 9/2 is the day that Marty McFly goes to 1885, also the day that World War II ends. Also very interesting in regards to this, World War II. Look how long it lasted. 6 years, 1 day. Right? A lot like the 61 that I was just talking about. So also, I took today's date and I went to Pope Francis's birthday. It'll be his 80th birthday. King Charles, that's supposed to say 53. King Charles equals 53 and 107. King Charles III equals 80 though. So just interesting, I guess, in regards to the 53 days, and then King Charles equals 53 and 107. King Charles III equals 80. Pope Francis will be 80 5 months, 5 days after today. The 55 yet again. And if you go from today to the day that Back to the Future ends, a span of 107 days, this will also be Philadelphia's 304th anniversary of being founded. Philadelphia is where the Fresh Prince is from. King Charles equals 107 days before that day. Also, I went to Prince Charles's birthday, November 14th. It'll be his 68th birthday. Donald John Trump equals 68. Pope Francis equals 68. Barack Obama equals 68. Even if you write out Prince Charles, it equals 68. But it's a span of 125 days, which I found interesting in regards to the Philadelphia train wreck that happened on May 12th, which in the UK they'd write it as 12/5, a lot like 125, but also time travel equals 125. Clock Tower, which plays a big part in Back to the Future, also equals 125. Clara Clayton, which is Doc Brown's wife, even equals 125. But I also saw this number a whole lot around the Golden State Warriors this year, which seemed to be a good thing because it was also connected to the 219. They only scored 125 points 3 times this year. I can't even remember it all, but I know that one of them was on Pi Day, where the Steph Curry's 28th birthday, the same day as the Kansas Amtrak derailment. They scored 125 points. It was 2 months and 19 days before the NBA Finals. 219 is a super significant number in regards to the Philadelphia train wreck, to Pope Francis, and also to Queen Elizabeth. If you go from the Philadelphia train wreck to 87, it's a span of 87 days. It's also the 219th day. That leaves 146 days until the end of the year. Prince of Wales, which is Charles, equals 146. The United Kingdom equals 146. Queen Elizabeth II equals 87. It's the exact halfway point between her 65th anniversary being queen, or her 64th anniversary being queen, and her 65th anniversary of being queen. If you go from the Philadelphia train wreck to Pope Francis's birthday, 79th birthday, a span of 219 days. If you go from 87 to his 3rd anniversary being Pope, a span of 219 days. So just wanted to point that out really quick. I know it's a whole lot to take in, but there's definitely something connected to Back to the Future and also these Amtrak derailments, and also many other things that are going on in the media. These train wrecks just really stick out a lot. So who knows, I just posted a little bit more stuff down here at the bottom. So today, it doesn't necessarily have to mean anything. I just find it interesting Today is either 12/7 or 7/2. The area code that I live in is 712. I literally only know one person ever who has died in a train accident. His name equals 122. Pretty interesting, you know? I mean, craziness. Also, 127 is the 31st prime. Back to the Future, ends, it'll be 31 years ago on October 27th this year. If you write out 31, it equals 134, just like King Charles III. Also, in regards to Philando Castile and Alton Sterling, Philando he got shot in Falcon Heights, that equals 127. And I talked about this place in regards to William McKinley's assassination and his vice president, Teddy Roosevelt, giving a famous speech about a big stick here. Also talked about the origin of Baton Rouge is from the red stick that involved the Huma people, that equals 127. Minneapolis also equals 127. Even weirder, last night I had a dream about being like trapped inside of a cave and there was writings on the wall. And the only thing that I could make out was this right here, B-E-B. And when I looked it up today, every time you look it up, it redirects you to Horus, the god Horus or whatever, right? And I guess B-E-B was the first son of Osiris or Osiris. But just interesting in regards to, it redirected me to Horus. Horus, has the head of the falcon, and then we got Falcon Heights. Who knows? Just found it interesting. I've also mentioned a lot about the exorcism in Earling, Iowa, that will be in August this year. It will be the 88th anniversary, and 88 in regards to, the speed for time travel. Also, I've talked about it in regards to satanic rituals. Purple equals 88. Talked about the red and the blue in regards to the two shootings. Red and blue make purple. Prince was all about purple, purple rain. Even talked about the purple plant that's been growing in Iowa called Creeping Charlie, that equals 88, But the exorcism in Earling, Iowa also lasted 127 days. 266th Pope equals 127. Typo. But remember, Pope Francis, the 266th Pope, went to the White House on the 266th day of the year. Buckingham Palace, 127. Vatican City. Gun violence, 127. Camilla Bowles, 127. That's Prince Charles's wife. Hoverboards, 127. If it wasn't for the hoverboard, I guess. I mean, they didn't even invent them this year. They even talked about the Carolina Panthers riding them around and whatnot. But hoverboards, 127. All-Star Week, 127. Also, if you read out Train Time Machine, it equals 162. Today is July 12th. It equals 162. Major League Baseball equals 162. They play 162 regular season games. So, who really knows about some of these? Just wanted to point them out in regards to the date. But there's a definite connection to Back to the Future 3 and a lot of the events that are going on, especially these train derailments. And, I'm just amazed that they do it in Italy now, which is, close to the Pope. And then it even has the gematria of 232. So, whatever, going to leave it at that. Like I said, I'll leave a link to this Death of Merle Haggard. Maybe a couple other links that I think might be helpful and whatnot. But have a good one.